Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the showdown between Kislev and Nurgle. It's going to be myself with the Ice Witch facing off against Subutai, who's going to be coming in with Festus the Leech Lord in a very elite Nurgle build, triple chosen with shields. Pretty badass for sure. Now, as far as my build goes here, it is going to be the Ice Guard with Glaives. These ladies are pretty good against Nurgle. They do magic damage at range and in melee, so if you're going to be seeing a lot of the Toads, which I think will be very meta nowadays, the fact that they got armor piercing makes them very good against Kislev. Now, Kislev does have pretty much high armor on all their infantry, their sleds, their heavy cavalry. And though the Toads don't want to be fighting a cav unit, they do pretty okay against heavy armor now with their armor piercing if they're stacked on top of infantry and have a little bit of support. So the Ice Guard are a tech to take down the Toad spam. And if there was like a character like Kugath who is a demon with physical resist, the Ice Guard can do a little bit more damage there. They're also very independent against being dove, so if Toads attack them, they have the anti-large halberds. They have a little bit of AP in melee if they have to fight Chaos Warriors. So two Ice Guard Glaives, front line is going to be the Kossars with Spears, kind of playing that High Elf Lothern Sea Guard style. Like them quite a bit for the poke. You can go with Streltsy, but Streltsy are going to be super vulnerable against Toad spam because they won't be able to fight back super effectively since they lack anti-large. Sleds are a staple here. Sleds are very good against any faction that wants to spam out infantry. So if we're talking about Khorne, if we're talking about Nurgle, many of the Chaos factions really are going to be very infantry-centric. Having heavy war sleds to just punch through that armor is super essential. Now, the Ice Witch is a good choice. I do think either the Ice Witch or Ulrika are both pretty solid. I think Ulrika might be a little bit better just because she's more solid in combat and can contribute a little bit more. She might even be able to bully Festus in combat since he is lightly armored infantry sized and she's a bonus for his infantry character. But the Ice Witch is a little bit cheaper. I believe Ulrika costs like close to 1,700 with her baseline kit, 1,500, and the Ice Witch is like 1,000. So there's some give and take there. But Blizzard is a good spell. It's very much like Pit of Shades, a little bit more expensive, but it gets the job done. Up in the top, we got two Kossars with Spears who are going to be playing the high ground objective and some Kosovo Dervishes. Now for the Great Subutai, there's a couple ways Nurgle plays. You can often see Nurgle players play SEM, which is spamming like Soul Grinders and Kugath and having this big ball of like hard to kill characters with healing, making it very, very rough to bring those bad boys down. But that kind of playstyle does lack a little bit of map presence. And this is kind of an old school Nurgle playstyle, or I don't even know. It's Warriors of Chaos do this also, but basically it's just warrior spam. So you get a ton of warriors, Festus with the healing elixirs, and even if the Chosen are getting pounded a little bit, Festus is going to be constantly healing those bad boys up. So yeah, I like this. And then you see Toads from here, you see Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes to try and drag down the heavy war sleds. And I believe Subutai this game actually summons in some Chad Chaos Knights. So that's going to be super fun for sure. So we'll do a little bit of fast forwarding. As right now, he's going to be hiding in the trees until the objectives open up. And if you guys are a little bit newer, this is usually a good idea. If you're facing a faction that has just massive shooting superiority against you, you want to wait till the objectives are open till you really push up and fight, because otherwise you're going to be taking a ton of value where you're not really contesting the objectives at the expense of your HP and whatnot, right? So we'll happily go for a triple cap. We see some Chaos Warriors being sent up to the high ground, but two Kossars with Spears should be able to kind of poke those guys. And the Nurgle forces cackle in the bushes. Have the Chaos Knights been brought out yet? Dude, Nurgle Chaos Knights are hands down one of my favorite units for sure. So heavy war sleds kind of lurking back and forth, just waiting for their prize. And now we do see Chaos Knights on the high ground, so Chaos Knights will move in. But this is why Kossars with Spears are great. You can go with the armored Kossars with Gary Opens. They might not be bad here, but these guys are anti-large and they do also have charge defense. So we use the Snow Leopard summon. So this is a summon and it's going to be pretty good for screening. Each of its attacks might be able to kill a Chaos Knight model, and it does force Subutai back here. In the meantime, Chaos Warrior is going to be trying to contest the point, but I do have two 5 cap weight units here. And with the bows, despite the silver shield, still doing okay damage, and we do call in another heavy war sled, our third and final one, to try and deal with that threat. Now, Nurgle's going to be getting pretty crunk here, moving down. No Chaos Knights have fallen. Looks like they did survive one of the shots, but now you're going to see the fury of the Chaos War Sleds. So, or excuse me, the Kislev War Sleds. Close enough. But they get a big charge right there. Huge, huge damage. And I think they're some of the best sleds in the entire game because they shoot while they're charging, a lot of dual purpose utility. You can use them kind of like war wagons, not quite the range DPS of war wagons, but against like this type of a build, they're going to be quite good. Now, we didn't kill any models on these Chosen, right? So Festus with his healing, potentially going to be able to cap them off if we don't get any more DPS. Ice Guard shooting, and Warbear Riders are also super essential against Nurgle. In the backfield, the Snow Leopard is a summon, of course. It'll be disappearing in about 10 seconds, but it has occupied some Chaos Knights as well as those Plague Toads. Now, up on the high ground here, Chaos Warriors getting absolutely wrecked. Obviously armored infantry. I don't care what faction you are. You don't want to be getting run over by sleds, especially if those sleds are pulled by the dreaded bears. Bears are like the coolest animal ever, aren't they? Look at them getting in there. So those Chaos Warriors going to get hammered. Now looking on the center, we do see the heavy war sleds continuing to run through, and this is what you want to be doing, trying to bunch up these Chosen, then dropping a fat blizzard on their head. So we're going to be raining the Fury of URSUN, the Tempest of URSUN. and that will do some pretty good damage against those guys. Now in the middle, we do send in the Warbear Riders. They do have good armor piercing, and you can see how quickly they actually take apart these Chaos Warriors. But the value is actually kind of close, which I was like, looking at the battle, I was like, man, I feel like I should be further ahead. But, you know, that's kind of how you always feel against Nurgle. With that healing, they're going to be moving in, and they're probably pretty close in value with healing being taken into account. So Chaos Knight's pushing up, and my Warbear Rider's probably going to want to pull back here. There are Toads in here, Armored Infantry. It's going to be able to tar pit these Warbear Riders. They're debuffed with the Miasma of Pestilence, as well as Poison, so their, you know, fighting prowess here isn't going to be amazing. Up on the high ground, Toads causing a little bit of havoc. The armor push certainly being pretty scary. More Chosen of Nurgle and Festus moving in, and they only lost one model since that initial fighting, but the high ground goes very, very well in our favor. One unit of the Chaos Warriors does get crumped pretty badly, but now back down to the pits, we do see the Tides of Nurgle pushing forward. Warriors and Toads. Toads with their newly acquired armor piercing, certainly not messing around, while the Ice Guard with Glaives keep dropping some nice shots against them. The magic damage, again, mitigates the 20% physical resist that the demons do have. So they'll be doing a lot more damage than like Armored Cossars. And this is why I really like Armored Cossars too. They have 30 melee defense and that Unbreakable Kislev trait. So, you know, even when your front line and your position starts to buckle, if they get, you know, pushed on, they're going to be able to kind of fight and hold for a while, which, you know, I just really like the utility of these guys. High ground, Winged Lancers charging in, trying to do a little bit of work to keep these Chaos Warriors from pressuring into my lines, but more and more Toads. My Heavy War Sleds are a little bit compromised right now. Both of them, I think, are, well, not compromised in terms of damage, but they're having to pull back and are really tar-pitted by the Toads. I'm not able to kind of freely run through these infantry. So you can see the power of stacking the Plague Toads of Nurgle on top of the infantry to keep the chariots from running through them, right? Nice Stream of Corruption there by Subutai does go through my poor Cossars with Spears. Up in the high ground, we have the Cossars actually shooting from the hills, which is very cool. It's, you know, I do like maps with terrain like this. This is something that, like, back in the day in land battle, like, just due to the nature of land battle, it was tricky to have, like, terrain, but with domination capture points, it's a little bit different, obviously, right? Heavy War Sleds have pulled back. Ice Guard with Glaives partially in combat. Their armor-piercing halberds will be very good against the Chaos Knights, but the Chaos Knights not going to be wanting to fight these ladies here, as they do have those anti-large attacks. And the Warbear Riders going to be pulling back more and more Toads on the way in, but if Toads are battling Cossars with Spears, I would say that's pretty cost-effective, and we do manage to detach some of the Heavy War Sleds here, and now we need to get them away from this fight, because man, oh man, it's getting scary, and URSUN's going to be calling in another unit of Warbear Riders. These Chaos Knights and Toads have been causing a ton of havoc, so having that anti-large mass to kind of stop them in their tracks is going to be quite nice. Another Stream of Corruption doesn't do that much damage. Kind of a bit of a weird loose formation here, and overall we were able to escape that. But Nurgle's big healing and Mortis Engine Mob, quite scary. Subutai has been doing an excellent job switching between the two, and I'm 100% down in value right now. Currently it's 4.8, 5.2 for myself, and with his healing that's been constantly on and off, and Fleshy Abundance and whatnot, it's not looking super great. Looks like there was a heal going to go down. No, that was actually a Blizzard. So we get a fat Blizzard on the Chosen of Nurgle, which is really, really cost effective. They're going to be taking a ton of damage. They're very, very elite, but even still, how have these Chosen done so far? They've accrued 1,000 value, so it's really cool to see elite infantry. I don't know what it is. This patch I've been noticing with like Chaos Dwarves and some of the other factions that elite infantry have been getting used more, at least in some of the early games I've been playing with some of these folks from the championship. They've been getting some work in for sure. Now, up on the high ground here, we do see Marauder Horsemen and Toads looking to push towards Objective 1. So our dudes might need to pull back. Cossars rotated from the high ground, just going to be raining an unholy amount of fire here on these Plague Toads. And the Warbear Riders of Kislev, man, doing great work, able to buckle the Plague Toads back, and they have high armor themselves. They have 100 armor, so a lot of these Chaos Warriors who are not the great weapon variants aren't going to be super great against them, right? And, you know, Nurgle might want to bring great weapons in this matchup, but the downside being is if they bring great weapons and then, you know, they move into my bow line, they're going to get shot to pieces quite a bit more. Maybe if I mix in some Streltsy, it'll be even worse. So Winged Lancers are a very good counter against Toads. The Toads, like I said, do okay damage against these type of cavalry units with a little bit of support, but if they're unsupported and their 24 melee defense and low armor has to take a shock cap charge from the Chad Winged Lancers, it's going to be very, very tough for them. So you can see these Toads going to be paying the iron price. Whereas up on the high ground here, a couple of Chaos Knights tried to loop around the back of my army, but I did pull both bear units, so the Warbear Riders with their anti-large halberds going to be able to tear these Chaos Knights to shreds. Chaos Knights typically lack armor piercing. I don't think there's any Chaos Knight variant that has armor piercing. It'd be kind of cool if one of them did. Like, what if Nurgle Chaos Knights had like a great weapon instead? That'd be so cool. They had like some giant two-handed axe or something, but yeah, it's a power fantasy for another day. I do think Nurgle's actually going to be quite good in this patch. Like, I don't think they'll be like, you know, unholy top tier, but the fact that Plague Toads got buffed and they had some other buffs across the roster, I expect Nurgle to be at least a 45% win rate faction, whereas before they were like 30%. Great Stream of Corruption by Subutai there, nails both of these guys. In the middle, we do have some Winged Dervishes or Winged Lancers, excuse me, still fighting here. Both of my Ice Guard are pushed back. As far as the value they've accrued this game, I would imagine it's not bad. 700 on one, and the other Ice Guard here are going to be getting pushed back by these Chaos Warriors, about 745, so the exact same value on both of them. But they have been the focus of a lot of spells and witchcraft and things like that, so it's kind of to be expected. But kiting these Chaos Warriors back, they do have 36 speed. Up in the high ground, heavy war sleds being pursued by a second unit of Chaos Knights. I believe the one unit of Knights did get hammered down by the War Bears, and no, that's the same unit. He did use the slowing ability to get away from the Bears, but the Bears are coming, baby. No mercy. Anti-large, armor piercing. Let's drag down some of these filthy heretics as the heavy war sleds are able to escape. And keeping the war sleds alive is super important. If you lose the war sleds in this matchup, what ends up happening is you just can't deal with the infantry. I mean, Kislev does have some tools to fight back in the infantry fight, like Zargard great weapons or Kossars with great weapons, but what ends up happening is Festus and Kugath type characters just dominate them in combat. So you need the sleds to kind of really buffer off the Nurgle infantry. It's kind of the rock, paper, scissors of this matchup, right? But Warbear Riders dominate the Chaos Knights, pretty numerous as well. They still have 11 models here, 15 models right here. In the backfield, we see more Toads coming in, some Nurglings, but we are starting to pull ahead pretty substantially in value. We get a couple Nurglings going for a Ninja on the side objective, but the Kosovo Dervishes are an amazing Nurgling hunting unit. These guys just do great damage against light armor. They have a charge bonus of 40, which for like a cheap shock cav unit or a cheap light cav unit is very, very good. So high ground objective taken by Kislev, and now we're starting to see a bit of an issue, is that there's only one Toad on the battlefield, a lot of Nurgle infantry. Many of the Nurgle assets are deeply extended into my lands, which is going to make them vulnerable, and we do pull in some armored Kossars now, so I always bring two in this. I brought the shielded variant because I figured I had enough AP. Granted, I probably should have brought the great weapon, but they're able to whip their pistols out and blast some of these Chosen into the back, with the Ice Guard now shooting as well. Ice Guard probably going to start to pull pretty close to 1,000 value, which is about what they cost, so I use Ice Guard in the Nurgle matchup. I use Ice Guard in the Vampire Counts matchup. I think they're very, very good there. I think they're an incredibly underrated unit, which is rad. Yeah, this season, as far as Total Tavern Season 3, which is starting now, essentially, I probably want to try out Kislev as one of my mains. Kislev, Empire, Chaos Dwarves have been playing so much that I really want to put up quite a bit of effort into focusing on those guys. But Kislev did get buffed in this patch quite a bit. It's a lot of micro buffs, like their Warbear Riders got some stats, their Kossars got some stats. Just a lot of little things that I feel could add up and maybe give them a little bit of a tip in certain matchups. Also, now that Chaos doesn't have like overpowered Hellstriders, it's going to make Kislev Cavalry much better in the meta, right? Because Warriors of Chaos, Slanesh would basically just dominate you using the overpowered Hellstriders. But now that they're balanced, it's going to be a different beast. So, Nurglings here, battling, getting run down. Looking here, we have 10.6 to 8.6. High ground objective is some armor, some Chosen of Nurgle, but we can just kind of troll with our armored Kossars here, sit on the edges of the point. You can see some pistol shots getting into Festus. He's a small target, he is infantry size, but even still, they probably will not be able to take this point. And looking at the score here, you can see the war sleds just running over. And now that Nurgle kind of lost its big blob, its big like push that it had, it's much easier for my mobile army to kind of pick them apart. And unsummoning here of Winged Lancers, Warbear Riders, and Heavy Sleds doing some awesome work. And what's really neat about Kislev is like, most units serve a purpose, right? There's some rosters where there's just like, you never see like diversity of builds to an extent. It's almost always the same. But with Kislev, there's a lot you can do, right? You can do like, Elemental Bears are actually good in this matchup. Heavy War Sleds are good. Like all their cavalry are pretty viable. Griffin Legion probably, well, one of the lesser used ones. Their Kossar variants are not bad, especially with the recent buffs. The Kossars now have 40 melee defense, up from like 36 or 38. So like little things like that, I feel like they can do some work. And, you know, they're various lords. Like Boris isn't bad. Boris Ursus, he's okay. You can also like use him on foot against Chaos Dwarves, and he's a decent little anti-large fighter. A lot of weird applications for sure. Anyways, you can see the shooting going down here. Nurgle pretty much corralled, 100 points until defeat. That's going to be GG, well played, as Festus tries to get the objective, but our armored Kossars hold valiantly. Chosen of Nurgle just absolutely butchering, but, you know, Kislev endures, baby. Are going to be holding to the bitter end. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. Cool stuff. A little bit of a look at two factions which have been changed in this patch. Kislev has gotten some big changes. Nurgle also got some pretty substantial buffs on a lot of different things. Festus, 2,500, pretty awesome. The Chosen, they did okay. One of them got focused by sleds early, but the other ones almost paid for themselves despite being under heavy magic and sled attacks, which were things that are counters, and they still performed. Looking at the Chaos Knights, I think that was the thing that lost them the game. Like, Subutai and I talked after the match, and I think if you just replaced the Chaos Knights with some other stuff, it would have been a much harder one. I just don't see their application. Kislev's too armored for the Chaos Knights to really shine. They have a lot of anti-large kind of halberd units. I think if they just mixed in like more Plague Bears and more infantry width, it could have been harder. Or you could even mix in maybe Barons of the Bog, yeah, because they have armor piercing too, so they would actually be able to fight against my cavalry and debuff them, so yeah, Barons of the Bog would be pretty sweet. In this matchup too, you can also use Kugath and do like a similar push. So you go Kugath with Plague Bearers and maybe some Shielded Warriors, and Kugath is a raid boss. Because what happens is Kislev puts a ton of focus fire to try and kill him, and if they don't finish the job, they end up losing, right? Because they just pour all their resources into taking down this 15,000 HP monster. So Yeah, it's a fun matchup. GG, well played. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. We'll be back with more replay soon. And URSUN bless.